So Kalki, is it your first visit to Bhutan?
Yes, it's my first time here and it's been really very beautiful.
Ever since I heard you're coming from Martinique, I've been actually stalking you on Twitter and your social media.
Right.
I believe you had tweeted about coming to Bhutan, and then there was so much of excitement.
Yeah, it was because I'd heard of Bhutan and being the happiest country in the world. I am a big trekker and a big explorer, so for me, anywhere which has a lot of nature, is tempting. And also there's that wonderful film that we made in India called The Lunchbox.
The Lunchbox,
where
yes.
they mention let's run away to Bhutan.
Yes, I love it too.
People are happy there. So I just have this nostalgia towards Bhutan.
I believe you read a lot. You are so very much into Oscar Wilde and William Shakespeare.
Yes.
So what is it in their works that fascinates you?
I don't know. I think I have an old-fashioned old woman inside me. I like classics because Oscar Wilde just has a brilliant sense of humor. He has a way of turning the society upside down in a very subtle way. So I really like that about him. And Shakespeare, of course, is just, my education of theatre has just made me do a lot of Shakespeare. And he's just extremely philosophical, extremely intelligent. Even today, he's so relevant.
So is it your love for Shakespeare and his works that made you move into theatre?
I think it was a bit symbiotic. Both of them happened with each other. Doing theatre made me like and understand Shakespeare better. And liking Shakespeare better made me want to do more theatre.
What is your most preferred genre? Is it poetry or drama?
I do love a lot of poetry. E. Cummings is one of my favorite poets, and there's a French poet called Jacques Prévert that I love. But I don't know what my favorite genre is. I like non-fiction actually, surprisingly. I like reading about history. I like autobiographies and biographies. I find that interesting.
How did your romance with theatre begin?
Well, I started as a kid, in school we would have these theatre festivals every year, and I would always participate, and I really enjoyed performing on stage. And, when it was time for me to decide what to do to go to university, I could only see something like theatre as being something I would be interested in for 3 years. So I chose this university Goldsmiths, and I did drama and theatre studies for 3 years.
If you could just briefly tell us the process of script writing.
There's no brief way to tell you about script writing. I think, as I said, it has to develop on its own. If you have a desire to write, you're going to write anyway. And sometimes it's very hard and intimidating to sit in front of a blank piece of paper and say, now I'm going to write. So it's much better to work around it, get other people to enact a scene, try out stuff, workshop it, question people, ask them, interview them, get the subject, really understand the subject that you're trying to tackle in whatever way, read books about it. The best way to write is to read, I feel.
I read somewhere in Grazia actually that you're writing a script, a comedy on dying.
Yes.
So if you could tell us a little about it.
So I've written it, and we've actually, I've directed it, and we've opened the play just last month. And it's called The Living Room, and it's a comedy on death. And I don't know where it started from, but I started writing about 2 years ago. And then last year I got my actors together, and then we did some readings, and then I went to rewrite, and finally this year we started rehearsing and putting it up into a play. And it's I think death is just something that we all face. We all have to face at some point in our life, and we think of it in such a negative light. And I wanted to sort of see it as a very natural, matter-of-fact part of life. What if death was a person who is part of life and who you have to deal with every day? So it was interesting. It was fun.
I was trying to Google about the comedy you're writing, and then is it based on Buddhist philosophy?
I didn't do it with a conscious idea of Buddhist philosophy, but I've grown up with these philosophies, with Buddhist and Hindu philosophy of the idea that it's just a cycle and that it's a part of life, death, and it's part of nature. Then I've been influenced by lots of people like Woody Allen, for example, who who's a complete atheist. But then I've also been influenced by Japanese manga, which the Death Note, which is about this. If you write the name, then that is the next name to die. So I don't know. It's just a thing. All the things that have influenced me in my life have come into play. I've not tried to make it particularly spiritual in the story, but I do feel like it's trying to tackle life in a matter-of-fact way. The whole beauty of life comes from the fact that we're going to die, because when we know we're going to die, we want to matter, we want to make something, leave something behind. So that sort of balance is interesting to me.
You are also very keen about performance poetry.
Yeah.
So how did your love affair with spoken words begin?
Spoken word. I think, well, because I've been writing poems since I was a child. My mom has kept all my little poems and stuff. So I've always enjoyed playing with rhythm and rhyme. I always did it just for myself. I never kept a diary, but I kept a diary of poems. So somehow I would translate the frustrations in my life into these poems. So that just kind of grew and grew until, I realized I could use it in performance. And it happened just 2 years ago when I performed my monologue and a spoken word piece about 20 minutes long. And, I really enjoyed it, and I think it was it just flows out of me naturally. I enjoy performing these. So I've started doing more and more of that.
I'm personally very fond of William Shakespeare and Bronte's. So there must be a poet or a few poets who might have inspired you.
As I said already, E. Cummings is a huge inspiration. I also love Jacques Prévert, who's a French poet. There are some really good spoken word things online which I really like.
So are you fond of Indian poets as well, like Rabindranath Tagore?
So I have done a play about Tagore, and it's called Colorblind, and it's about his relationship with a woman called Victoria Ocampo. She was a feminist writer in Argentina that he met in his later years when he was 63. And so we did read a lot of his poetry, and all the Bengalis in our group would say, "You will never understand his poetry until you speak Bengali." So I enjoy reading his poems, but unfortunately I can't read them in Bengali.
So is it a play about Tagore?
Yes, about Tagore.
Is it available for us to view as well? I mean,
you have to invite us to Bhutan.
Oh, okay. That's quite expensive. So may I request you to share one of your poems with us?
This is called The Printing Machine around 2015. Chirr, duck, duck, duck-a-duck-a-duck, tree, goes the steady printing machine, churring bloody scenes into bold black ink, churring headlines that make us glug-glug our drink, churring crimes against women, steep rise in ink, gang rape Japanese tourist, international stink, strip search for menstruating, blink, EROM force-fed from starving, think, child raped by politician, ka-ching, chirr, duck, duck, duck-a-duck-a-duck, tree. The machine harps happily, and we drink to ink that makes our stomachs sink and teaches us to fear everything. Fear the beasts riding the nights from Delhi to Pondicherry, catcalling, wowing, growling, gurring, beasts of poverty, beasts on a shopping spree. It's midnight, Cinderella. It's 10 o'clock, you dirty fella. Oh hell, it really doesn't matter. It was afternoon in the warehouse and nobody heard her. There was just gurring, growing louder and louder, and the machine churring faster and faster, churring a nation that prides itself in the hanging of 4 men, 5 if you count the suicide bastard, churring a village dangling of 2 girls like pin-up dolls upon a tree, churr, tuck, tuck-a-duck-a-duck, tree goes our busy printing machine, till heads pile up in our hands, printed crisp and clean on our newspaper stands, and blend smoothly into our morning routine. Heads for one side or another, like a black and white marketplace. 2 heads for 4, 4 heads more, enough heads to start a war. Churring one after another. How many heads are we after? And when you think it's over, when the machine stops with a sudden tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck-a tree, wait a little. Wait patiently. It's just readying to churr at textbooks of rewritten histories, of dissected countries, of majorities and popular beliefs, and then the long, slow churr of italics in Roman prints of sweeping statements made by official establishments to take safety precautions and make improvements based on moral views and religious sentiments of political convenience, churring out the marks of sin cut out of the clothes you're in, the men with whom you've been, the color of your skin. Speaking of which, churring horizontal lines vertically to pay for print in soft baby pink, the pleasant opening page revealing a fair and lovely face, which melts slowly a few pages on with the rise of acid sales. Churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, tree. Our machine sings obliviously, churring magazines with shiny sheens to accommodate setups socially serene, a world we can buy into, a dream we can hang on to, a love that divides one into two, values that depend on what others think of you. And you know the tune, you are what you say and not what you do, so keep tap, tap, tapping on keyboards computing, virtual drawing rooms of communicating, tap, tap, tweet, tap, tap, sweet, tap, tap, texting, tap, tap, emoticon, whilst our machine keeps churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, churring background scores to our scenes, churring fantastical Bollywood dreams and glory based on box office stories, churring carefully formulated plots of success, pots of money and lots of business, churring us to smile at rocks and call them diamonds, and honey, churring us into late life disappointments and lifelong resentments. Churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, tree. Churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, tree. Churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, tree. The family you marry has nothing to do, churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, true, with the man you woo. Churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, tra, to underwear and bra. Ladies, you can't fight seriously in lingerie, so hurrah, hurrah, let's throw her a bikini every time she raises her head defiantly. You see, God forbids multiplicity for a woman in our society. Churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, tree, goes our precious printing machine, churring what it sees, churring nonchalantly, churring sadness, fatness, and mental illness as reasons for unhappiness, churring medication that sedates you into stillness, churring you to mask your nakedness by wearing less and less, churring bitterness in mothers like slow venom seeping into future generations, the quiet revenge of the weaker sex from behind the guise of a tear-stained Kleenex. Churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, tree, churring little brats that grow into men, churring little ladies who use hearts to pretend and find ways to manipulate and defend themselves from the gurring beasts of Darwin's survival of the fittest theories, until our whole existence becomes an endless series of churr, tuck, tuck, tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck, trees, tuck-a-tuck-a dailies, tuck-a-tuck-a weeklies, tuck-a-tuck-a stories that become our histories, which, oh, in irony of all ironies, will one day reveal how our great Indian heritage fell to its knees at the mercy of innocent tuck, tuck, little tuck, tuck, printing tuck-a-tuck-a-tuck machines.
Wow.
Done.
So it's like a song.
Yeah.
Talking about Fair and Lovely, I was watching a debate on NDTV. I think there is so much of
Pressure to be fair.
pressure to be fair in India,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah,
So, and I read somewhere like you are the last person who wants to be fair.
Yeah, I have the opposite problem. I want to
Yes.
be dark.
Why? Why?
I want a cream. I want to advertise a cream that makes you dark and beautiful. Why? Because I've grown up being white in a country which is not white, and I've always felt like the outsider, and I feel Indian from inside. So I always say my skin is white, my heart is brown. You know,
Yes.
I always want to be more Indian. But I also, I mean, Fair and Lovely for me is a concept which is, you know, it's an illusion. It's not true. I think there are very beautiful dark people, and in fact, if you go to Europe, everybody wants to be dark.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a grass is greener on the other side thing.
So this, the poem you're reading out, the printing machine, is it kind of satire about
Yeah.
the current society?
It is. It's a satire on society in India right now. Also on media and how we project things so frivolously now, and we've gotten so used to it. You know, we've become so numb to news about rape, to horrific murders. You know, we're so used to it, we don't blink an eyelid. We're sipping our coffee and reading the paper like it's a daily thing. So I feel like I wanted to kind of highlight these things and say that it's not so frivolous, and one day it's going to become our history. This moment, which we think is just unimportant, is going to be recorded, and people will look back at this, you know, with, I hope, a sense of tragedy and, you know, irony. So I feel it's that's what the story is about.
So, are you in a way feminist?
I am a feminist, you know, but I'm not an activist. I don't think. I just I write when I feel strongly about something. I'm not. It's not my permanent job. You know, I'm like any responsible human being. I think we are all responsible for each other and for the society we live in. So it's important to talk about those things.
So especially when you write monologues or poem like this, how do you gather inspiration?
I go through phases, you know, where I'm very, very bothered by something. I remember when the Nirbhaya rape happened, Jyoti Singh's rape happened. You know, I was in Delhi at that time, so I was there when the protests were happening, and I was really bothered by it and really affected by it. So I wrote a blog at that time, and you know, I think it's just certain things just hit you, and then you just want to write about them. We did a short video called "It's Your Fault." I don't know if you saw it, but it's basically saying how we blame the woman for a rape. Like, oh, it was because she was out late, or because she was wearing a miniskirt, because she this, she that. So we always blame the woman for the rape, which is ridiculous, you know, because it doesn't. There are women in burqas getting raped. There are women in their 60s getting raped. There are children of 3 getting raped. So it really has nothing to do with your sexuality. It's about power. And so we wanted to show that through a satirical video, which we did called "It's Your Fault."
Yes,
so that was the
yes,
debate.
That was really nice. So when you narrate a poem, are you more of a poet or are you a storyteller?
I don't think my poems are very poetic. That's why I call them spoken word,
words.
you know, because I'm not forming beautiful sentences. It's really, at times they can be quite crass, you know. I use bad language sometimes. I use slang sometimes. For me, it's more about the present day and getting across a message about the, you know, relative to today's society and how we live. So sometimes it's even like a text message, you know. I put in little you know, emotions and things. So yeah, I play with that, with the present construct of how we communicate.
You seem to write a lot actually, but why do you call yourself a reluctant writer?
Because as soon as somebody asks me to write for them, I freeze. I can't write on demand. You know, there are writers, I find writers actually, I have a lot of respect for writers because it requires a huge amount of self-discipline. I was talking to some of the writers here. They wake up at 5 and they work for 8 hours every day on their own, typing, you know. And that for me is I mean, I can't think of it. I'm an actor, I spend my time mostly acting, and this is a side hobby, you know. I like to write when something bothers me. It's for my own therapy. I used to do it, you know, just to put it in my diary, just to get it out of my system. So that's why I'm a reluctant writer. I'm not a serious writer.
Does writing liberate you and help you rediscover yourself?
Yeah, that's what I was saying about therapy. You know, it's for me, writing is a way to when you don't have an answer immediately for something, you know, it stews in your mind and stews in your mind. It's really important, I think, to get it out. And sometimes we go and speak to somebody about it, and sometimes we write about it, you know.
And you are a popular Bollywood star. And then how did your love affair with Bollywood start?
With Bollywood, how did my love affair with Bollywood start? I don't know. I just started with, you know, a film which was both at the same time a cult film and it became a hit, which is Devdi. So I think I was just lucky to be sort of right in the middle of it. Before that I was doing theatre in Bombay, and I never really had some ambition to become a big star in Bollywood or anything. I just wanted to keep working and find work. So I would keep auditioning and keep looking for stuff. And it's the same right now. I'm not looking to be the next big heroine or anything. I just want to continue the craft of acting, because I think it's a fantastic form of expression. It's a fantastic way to communicate to people stories and ideas and emotions. You know, there's very few other mediums where you can get a whole hall of people laughing at the same time or crying at the same time, and I think that's beautiful.
Going back to Devti, was it the role of a strong teenage prostitute that fascinated you to debut in that film?
I mean, no, I just was happy to get work at that point. And it was my first film. I was like, wow, I have a film. Yay. I didn't think so much about the character. Of course, I loved the script and I loved the character, and I was very excited to research it and get into it. But for me, it was just, I was grateful to get work, you know.
You are associated with serious alternative films also in India. So especially the role in Devti and that girl in yellow boots, that was very stunning and bold. So how are these films received by Indian audience?
Well, Devti was sort of a slow burning hit, you know. It started off quietly and then it became really popular. So it's become a cult classic now, which is wonderful. Yellow Boots is still very underground, you know, people, very few people saw it in the theatres, and there's a certain sort of following of Anurags that had watched the film, so it's not as popular. But then a film I recently did called Margarita with a Straw, that was also a very independent sort of concept, but it did really well. It was popular, it stayed in the cinema for 5 weeks, so I think it's a real sign for me of, you know, people wanting to watch alternative cinema as well.
I'm actually very much looking forward to watch Margarita with a Straw, but it's not available
not
here
out
yet.
Yeah.
Your personal view, why is there a need to produce alternative cinema?
Why is there a need? I mean, you know, as long as there's human suffering, as long as there's problems in the world, we need to talk about them and question them, and not necessarily in a dark, you know, terrible way. It can be through comedy as well. But I think that the whole idea of cinema and films is to communicate and tell a story to people, and to sort of gather, you know, people of any different religion, creed, background, bring them together in the same space and tell them, you know, we all feel the same things. I think, I don't know, yeah, it's important.
And what can Bhutanese filmmakers learn from Bollywood?
I don't know. I'm actually not familiar with Bhutanese cinema.
We are very Bollywood oriented.
Really?
Yes, we have those running around the trees.
Yeah.
Yes,
well, well, Bollywood cinema is fantasy, and it's, you know, it's been a formula that has worked for a long time. But now we're finding that there are changes in Bollywood, and people are wanting to watch more content-driven films. You know, so there's nothing wrong with making a commercial film, but I feel that the content should be original, the content should be authentic. The trap we have in cinema is as soon as a film works, it becomes a formula. Then we try to repeat it again and again and again until it becomes really stale and empty of any fun. So I think that's the trap one should not fall into. If you make a hit, don't remake the same film. Make something completely different. Make another hit, but of a different kind.
And last question, since it's raining.
Yeah.
What will be your advice to people who are aspiring to write spoken words or poetry?
Nothing really. Just keep writing and keep having fun with it. You know, spoken word is performance as well. So you have to enjoy performing. You know, it's very different from writing and keeping it in a book. You know, spoken word is meant to be heard. So you know, practice it, rehearse it, bounce it off a friend, you know, in a small house party or something, just in a gathering, just to get feedback. It can be tweaked forever. I feel nothing is perfect, you know, and you have to keep editing it. So even my poems, I don't like to print them I don't like to give them for printing because I'm like, I could have changed this. I'll keep changing things as I go along. You know?
So thank you so much for your time and patience, and I hope you have a great time in Bhutan.
Thank you.